compared to me going through page by page and really absorbing everything
actually
compared to a speed reader.
Yeah.
There has to be something lost.
Yeah, because a speed reader essentially has faster feedback loops. And then the visualization skills are much more vivid, right? So I'll tell you what speed reading. What speed reading really means. You can't, first of all, you can't speed read words you don't understand, right?
Right.
Like you can't speed read like a book of chemistry.
Yes. Okay.
So you have to first of all know everything, know the words within the pages.
Right.
Second of all, you have to already know the concepts within, kind of like, oh, he played basketball and then he went to sleep. You have to understand the concept of basketball and the concept of sleeping. And then the rest is just, so you know the terminology, understand it, and then the rest is just sequencing and arrangement, right? So you flip pages and it's like a unique way of arranging words. That's what the book essentially becomes.
What about fiction? You obviously can't read fiction as well as
no, you can.
marketing book.
As long as you understand the words, you understand what like a wizard magician is, you understand what like enchanting a wand is, you can, you know what I mean? If you're familiar with that, if it's like, let's say you come from like the jungle, you don't know what a wand is, like for like a magician, then you're gonna spend like 20 minutes just looking up what's a wand. But if you know that word and you know the use of that word, then all it is just like a new way of arranging the words.
So you've taken like English literature in school, right? So
you
read a book, and so just answer this as brutally candidly as you can.
Yeah.
Say I'm reading a Victor Hugo Les Miserables book. It's 1,469 pages, and I'm reading it over the course of 2.5 months. And you speed read it in 10 hours.
Yeah, that's
and they gave us an exam on just like the plot, just of comprehension.
Yeah.
And say I got a 90 percentile score. What percentile would the speed reader get?
Well, first of all, it's all about the space-time continuum, right? Because after you both read the books, you're both past the point of reading the book, and now you're in the space-time continuum.
I'm going to retain almost all of the book. I find it hard to believe you could retain as much.
See, let's say you
specific questions about the plot. Where did Jean Valjean climb over the wall to get into the convent to hide Cosette from Javert?
I disagree with you, but let me just kind of I'll be the devil's advocate on your case. Let's say a speed reader has a lower comprehension, but to compensate for that, you could speed read it 2, 3, 4 times, and still be after the net time of reading, right? Let's say like you said, for 3 months. For 3 months, you would probably know every single page of that book by heart.
Yes.
You could ask me, what's the line 5 on page 821?
Almost.
And then that's what a speed reader could do. Versus like someone like a slow reader could just know the facts here and there, maybe with the majority or 80, even 90%, but they couldn't like have like the telescope to like be like the pages imprinted in them.
Why doesn't everyone become a speed reader? Why isn't it mandatory for kids?
It's a muscle. It's a muscle, right? Well, school is driven by the lowest common denominator, right? So you can't have that in school.
Are you going to teach your kids to be speed readers?
Yeah, that's the only way to do it.
Why wouldn't you?
Why not? Why would you teach someone a bad strategy when there's a good strategy available?
A superior one.
I mean, time is available. Okay, a razor sharp critical awareness. That's kind of me. I'm always being cynical, critical, kind of mistrust before trust. Being razor sharp in your critical thinking. Even in something benign like a birthday party, you don't want to put your guard down because there's no benefit to dropping your guard, really, unless you're like in an intimate situation. But like,
okay, just something to touch on. We discussed the other day. My colleague Gary is the greatest leasing agent in commercial real estate in Las Vegas. Sometimes he'll have a deal that he's making happen that's just impossible. It's just not going to happen. I was like, Gary, you're sure? He had like an art gallery he wanted to put into this 10,000 square foot place, and the guy had a little tiny gallery, and he wanted to take up 10,000 square feet. It was just it wasn't going to happen. I'm like, Gary, let's be realistic here. He's like, Jeff, you're so negative. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear any. And I'm not being negative. I'm just taking into account all possible scenarios to make a logical decision.
Yeah.
Some people, they want to hear that. Like, don't be negative. I want to do this crazy, ridiculous thing and you're bringing down my positive energy.
Yeah, that's like being like the people that are like, you know, driven by reality and accuracy, and people driven by their dreams, right? So you can't win in that situation. You could only be true to yourself.
You can't not be who you are. If you're a critical
the only
thinker,
thing you can do
you're
is
not a dreamer.
The only thing you could do is like, remember where I said you don't want to be like the problem fixer. You want to be like, the solution is here, and if you want, come along. You know what I mean? You don't want to be like pointing out their fault.
Right,
You want to be like this is clearly the solution, but if you don't want to go along, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm guilty as charged there. Instead of doing that, I'm trying to convince them. It never works.
Yeah, because that's being problem focused. You want to be solution focused.
Guilty as charged. Next.
Okay, being safe is dangerous. You don't want to rock the boat until the crash. Right? So sometimes time is of the essence, and time is relative to safety. And some people, I think I use that like a lot in relationships. Like some people, it's better to point out your faults and all of your shortcomings early on in a relationship, because then you'll very quickly know if they would come up later in the future, per se. Like let's say you're in a lot of debt or whatever. If you tell that people later, and then why waste all that time if you can just get rid of that now? Because we're driven by abundance, right? That's, I guess, the underlying assumption is it's abundance, right? So if that parameter is being withheld, and then you shed light on it, with abundance, you can actually get lined up better.
So you might as well be brutally candid and forthright and blunt right up front, and that's the most efficient way to do it. Why?
As long as you're impressing, not expressing. You know, you don't want to be like the guy like dumping. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to be just like, hey, you're asking me if I'm a good husband, whatever. I can tell you I'm not in debt, whatever. You want to be kind of like that. You want to be, as long as it's like, in other words, it's good. Like if someone would ask you the question, you can make an expanded answer. But if you're like, hey, I have something to tell you, boom, 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 dump, 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 dump.
Right,
you know,
right.
Like. Because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Okay, next thing, reverse engineering, and let's add reverse psychology. So reverse engineering is basically, another way of saying that is planning, mapping, basically seeing the future first, and then imagining all the steps coming backward of how you would get there going forward. Pretty self-explanatory. Reverse psychology is like, kind of like planting seeds. I would just say planting seeds, and just to maybe like, because sometimes being explicit isn't helpful. Sometimes you want to just plant a seed and leave it alone, let it like kind of the seed kind of grow up on its own. Okay, let's just keep going. You need bigger problems, preoccupation of brilliance. A lot of small problems can be fixed by having bigger problems, right? Like if you don't like the coffee, like you're gonna be much more worried when you're gonna be foreclosed on, or your business is gonna bankrupt, or your partner's gonna divorce you or something. But there can also be like big problems, positive, like, you know, we're like, you know, we have this goal but we're short of it, and what's the result of that shortage? Let's just keep going. Transcending time and becoming an entity. Jeff, take this over.
Transcending time and becoming an entity. What does that mean to me? It would be